Романија е уште една држава која се граничи со Украина и која е многу близко до Русија. И тие имаа скандалозен избор за председател кој потоа беше поништен од Уставниот суд. На овие теми што се случува во Романија, разговарам со колегата Аделин Пертисор, но Пертисор е исто така и воен репортер кој меѓу другото известувал и од сите држави, од Блискиот Исток, од Африка, но и од нашиот балкански регион. Тој бил и во Србија, и во Косово за време на конфликтот и имал прилика да направи интервју и со Аркан. Предлагам да го слушнеме и тоа интервју, односно да го пренесеме малку неговото искуство од неговата долгогодишна работа. Adeline, thank you very much for talking for my show. You're a very experienced journalist that I really admire. So I would like you to share your experience with my viewers about the Middle East, because it's very hard in North Macedonia to talk on these topics about Middle East. You've been reporting basically from all the wars that happened on the Middle East. So in your experience, what was can you name one war or one country that was the hardest for you as a journalist to follow up or to cover?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I've covered a lot Middle East since 1996, when I was 20 years old, and I was for the first time in Lebanon. At that time, the south of Lebanon was under Israeli. They pull out on 2000, I think. And the worst, I think the worst is Gaza right now, because it's impossible to go there. I mean, I tried in so many times. I covered October 7th. I was in Israel for, I don't know, 2 or 3 times immediately after, and in December 2023. And I tried so bad to be at least embedded with IDF for having a glimpse of what's happening in Gaza, but unfortunately wasn't possible. And I think this is the worst place because no international press is there, and it's unfair, because normally you should be free to tell the stories on both sides in any conflict.
So you mentioned, like majority of journalists, you weren't able to go to Gaza, but you've been reporting from Israel for a year. So what was your experience back then? Were you able to go in and out of Gaza, and what is your experience in Gaza? I know many journalists who visited Gaza, but again, what is the difference, and what was like to be inside?
I was in Gaza, and probably is one of the most crowded places on earth, and I try to imagine how could be now. I mean, for sure it's a hell, and we are talking about 2 million people living in this harsh environment now, having Hamas on the side, IDF on the other side, having not so many points for food and stuff like this. I mean, they used to have 400 when NGOs were involved, and right now I've heard the Arwa Demon said that they have 4. I mean, imagine how hard it is to travel through the lines for having food or water, something like this. Gaza was always complicated, because I told you it was crowded, and for Hamas it was easy to be among civilian and to hide there.
Have you ever have any experience with Hamas?
No, I've never. I used to be based in Israel for 1 year for Romanian public TV, but it was in 2002. It was the bloodiest year of the second Intifada, and it was the year when I succeeded to interview Yasser Arafat. I think he was at that time in his worst moment because he was surrounded by Israeli army in his compound in Mukata, which is in West Bank. And the building was pretty much destroyed, no water, no food, the communications were jammed by Israeli army. And I think I was the third international journalist who went and met Arafat in this harsh condition. First, it was a team from Associated Press, second CNN with Brent Sadler, and me after.
So did you feel safe when you was surrounded by his people?
I mean, as safe as you are in a, military operation area. It was very hard to go in because the Israeli were surrounding the Mukata and they didn't allow anyone to go in or out. And I needed one friend, he was a Palestinian photographer, and he knew some tricks and we succeeded to go in.
So I have to ask, because when we are in the war zones, we have to watch what we say all the time.
Yeah.
So did you feel free in freedom of speech when you were interviewing Arafat, or you were watching what words you use?
No,
or?
I mean, no one, I was free to ask whatever I wanted. It was a short interview, it was 15 minutes or something like this, because I told you it was a very, very hard moment for him. And also he was very old and ill. And it was a normal interview. I mean, it wasn't so normal because somehow because I was alone because of the budget. I was by myself with no cameraman, and I took the interview. I filmed the interview, and after this, one of his bodyguards kept the camera for me to ask the question to record it for editing later on.
So now when we look at this Middle East, we see devastating pictures. It's not just from Gaza, but the whole Middle East is basically burning. A few days ago, another war started with Iran and Israel. And sometimes when we do this for a very long time, as you are doing this, you can foresee what is going to happen next.
No, Middle East, it's impossible to be predicted somehow. I mean, I know very clever person working in this field, analysts. No, it's impossible to. I mean, so many implications, so many forces, and we have these days Trump. I think from time to time Trump succeeded to surprise himself, and it's impossible to predict. And really, we are living an important moment because Israel-Iran war. It's a big story and could be ended either way. I mean, it's hard to predict what's going to be.
So, what is your assessment, your personal assessment? What do you think about this?
I try not to have personal assessments because I'm working for the news, and I mean, the easiest way is to have an opinion. Every stupid guy could have an opinion. The internet is full with people with opinions. As journalists, we try to stick with facts and we try to report what we've seen there.
What is the main difference between Middle East reporting and reporting, for example, from European war, like Ukrainian war? Because in Ukraine, we felt more free to go in other cities to talk with civilians, with whoever we want, basically, but it's not exactly like that on the Middle East. So can you share that experience?
It's hard to compare because I've never been in Ukraine since the war started. I mean, I have two other colleagues who did this. I've covered Orange Revolution, in Ukraine. Yes. But I'm not sure. I mean, I'm used to the Middle East, and I somehow, from professional point of view, I love be there. I love be there rather than being in Africa. I covered wars in Africa also, and I somehow I understand much better the people, the situation. I'm used with this. I told you I started in '96 in Lebanon. I covered Syria. I was in Iran. I covered, I don't know, Lebanon, Israel. First, the war in 2006 with Hezbollah. And I have experience. You've never have experience how as big as you want, but I think I have a bit of experience in this.
It's never safe and simple to report from this kind of places, especially now, not when there are a lot of terrorist group or proxy groups fighting. So what was the most dangerous moment in your career? When and where did you feel most threatened?
The journalists, the war correspondents are not heroes. They don't have capes and stuff like this. I don't see things like this. I think an war correspondent is one of the laziest journalists, because they are, I mean, it's so easy to pick up stories from a war zone. Other journalists are working years to discover, I don't know, some economically, I don't know, they are making investigation very complicated. For us it's very simple, because we'll go there and we are surrounded by
guns,
stories
and bombs.
Yeah. But you know, from professional point of view, I think is the easiest niche of journalism, because it's easy to pick up stories. I mean, every story in a war zone, it's a big and very powerful story, because you know, a lot of emotion, a lot of people living in desperation without food. You'll see children struggling to live another hour. I mean, in the war zone, you know, the survival means some, I mean, it's counted in hours, not in days, weeks or months. And you can bring a lot of stories from there. I mean, and from this point of view, we are the laziest journalists.
Have you ever been scared for your life?
From time to time, yes. I mean, it's impossible to say, hey, I'm not scared. I mean, if someone will say that,
every war
it's
reporter,
bullshitting you around. I mean,
every war reporter at least once faced a situation when somebody holds gun in your hand.
Yes, I was gun pointed in Egypt in 2011, I think, when Mubarak was thrown out, and I was gun pointed, me and my cameraman, but it was okay till the end. I mean, it's unpleasant, but you know, it's a part of our work. When you want to take a shower, you know that you'll be wet somehow. I mean, and this is it. I mean, it's not so complicated.
I want to, you've also been reporting from the Balkan region and Balkan conflicts.
I was very young in Kosovo, in Belgrade, yeah.
So this will be very interesting for Balkan audience. We had a Serbs have very notorious war criminal, Arkan, and you managed to get an interview with him. So when did this happen? How did this happen?
In '99, in the spring, when they were bombed by NATO, I was in Belgrade covering the story. I was working also for Romanian public TV at that time, and I was staying in Intercontinental. The international media used two hotels, Hyatt and Intercontinental. I was staying in the Intercontinental, and somehow through a Romanian friend, I succeeded to talk with Arkan, Željko Ražnjatović, and he agreed to give an interview for a Romanian audience. And he gave two interviews, but this was first. He gave this to me and another one to Mile Carpenișan, a friend of mine working for commercial TV at that time. And we managed to talk with Arkan by phone, and he said, okay, where are you staying? In the Intercontinental. Okay, tomorrow at, I don't know, 11 o'clock I'll be there. And I went to the reception to ask the guy permission for filming in the lobby, and the guy was, I was very young, I was, I don't know, 23 or something like this, and the guy was somehow laughing at me. I said, okay, what do you want? I said what I wanted, and he said, no, this is a 5-star hotel. We cannot allow people to take picture inside. We have clients. I said, okay, but I'm staying here. No. And I said, this is it. I was waiting for Arkan. Arkan came with 2 or 3 big GMC cars with a lot of people with submachine guns. And he saw me, he said, okay, let's do the interview. We did the interview. And after the interview, I asked the reception guy, hey, sorry for this, but Arkan insisted to make the interview here. So, no, it's not, wasn't a problem. Nothing happened. It was an important moment for me as a journalist because at that time Arkan was, had a lot of requests, gave an interview for CNN, for Brent Sadler, 1 hour by satellite. I mean, he was a kind of main character in that moment.
What was your impression of him?
He was a tough guy, he was a paramilitary guy. He was very pissed off because all the time I asked paramilitary group Tiger and he corrected me saying, no, we are in the army. And I asked again, and the third time he almost yelled at me, we are not paramilitary, we are, he knew how to speak, but he was very controversial character, with a lot of nasty things on his resume, a bad guy for sure.
And at the end, I really have to go back to our continent and to ask you, because Romania is very close both to Ukraine and Russia, and we can feel Russian presence in your neighborhood, basically. So what is the atmosphere in Romania, in your country, for Ukrainian war and the invasion of Ukraine? Is there any, you are part of the European Union, so it's not the same position, but what is the atmosphere? Is there any atmosphere of fear of Russia and Russian acts in this neighborhood?
It's normal. It's normal to fear because you have the war next door, and we have 600 kilometers of border with Ukraine. We have a big Romanian community in Ukraine, and of course a lot of people are worrying. And the main idea was that Romania helped a lot Ukraine. We gave one Patriot system, anti-missile Patriot system, and I think for Romania it's very important that Ukraine not to be defeated, because Ukraine is a safe guardian for Moldova. And we have a lot of Romanian citizens in Moldova. I think around 1 million Moldavians are Romanian citizens. They have Romanian passports also. And it's very important. And a lot of political analysts, not only in Romania, in Europe, in United States, thinks that without Ukraine, Moldova could disappear in a blink of an eye. And yes, we are worried. It's impossible not to be worried with the war next door, and we have a full-scale war since 2022. And President Trump was a little bit too optimistically saying that he'll stop the war in 24 hours. In 100 days, the war is still going on, and I'm afraid it's going to be like this for, longer period. His negotiation with Putin seems to be strange. He gave up a lot to Putin before starting negotiation, which is crazy. I don't understand this kind of negotiation. Anyway, we are relying on the United States. You are in NATO also, and all the Europe are relying on the United States because they have big presence in Europe. They have nuclear deterrence. They have nuclear umbrella for us in Europe, and they have around 100,000 military in Europe. And let's see. It's a complicated period.
And what is Romanian public opinion about some European leaders who are close to Vladimir Putin? For example, Orban. Was the only politician who went to Moscow, and that was not very well accepted from the rest of the European Union. So what are Romanians saying to
this? Not only him, the Prime Minister, Slovak Prime Minister, did things
Yes.
like this.
And you're close to both of these countries.
Yeah, but we have good ties with Budapest. We have big Hungarian community, Romanian Hungarian community, and the relations are very good between Bucharest and Budapest. Of course, Orban is playing different than the rest of EU, and it's not easy. It's not easy for EU because he can block a lot of things. He could do this in the future also, but somehow, for sure, our leaders should find a solution to work. Because look, in this period it was hard, but Europeans somehow find a solution to help Ukraine, to give military assistance. Of course, it's very important to have United States backing up Ukraine because they are powerful, they have big industry. But I think somehow Europeans succeeded to pull them together and to do something, because if Ukraine is safe, the Europe is safe. I don't think Russia will stop after Ukraine. I mean, I saw a lot of reports from Germany, from UK, that in 3 to 5 years, Russia could, attack even a NATO member.
You mentioned Moldova. They have a problem also with this region called Transnistria.
Yeah.
So
now Moldova is so tiny. I told you, without Ukraine, could disappear in a blink of an eye.
So they also had protests and problems with this Russian population living in Transnistria region. So is there any possibility of new conflict in this small piece of land?
Russia has a lot of frozen conflicts. Even here in Georgia, we are talking in Georgia. I mean, they have so many conflicts, and these frozen conflicts could immediately be used by Russia somehow, and no one knows. But for sure, Putin will play hard next year also.
They tried to influence your elections,
of course.
The judiciary system actually stood up and dismissed that election cycle. So
cancelled
it completely.
Constitutional court, yeah.
So what do you think about Russian influence in Romania, and how can one country actually defend itself from this influence? We call it now hybrid war.
Yeah, we are in a hybrid war. Our president said this, our new president, the newly elected, said that we are in a hybrid
because
war.
Putin has a lot of supporters in some of these countries.
It's hard in Europe. You can find problem in any society, and of course, Russian propaganda is working everywhere to make from tiny holes big caves in societies. I mean, they are fighting a lot, the Russians, to determine people to mistrust their own institution, their own authorities. It's hard in this hybrid war. It's hard to say how big portion is Russian propaganda and how is covered by useful idiots, because all of us, we have back home useful idiots, and they are playing for nothing with Russian propaganda. It was hard. I mean, I don't think any democracy is happy cancelling an election, but I think cancelling an election is a wound for a democracy. But I'm wondering, somehow, it's a rhetorical question, it's better to have scars after this wound or your democracy being killed? I mean, I don't know, I'm a journalist, I expect, even now, more clarification from our authorities, because when they canceled the election, they declassified a 6-page document signed by the biggest Romanian secret service, Serviciul Român de Informații, and there we've been told that more than 25,000 accounts were working on TikTok for pushing this guy, Călin Georgescu, on first position. we need more explanation for sure. I don't think it's easy for a democracy to cancel an election.
Yeah, we live in very turbulent time, and we did not expect maybe this to happen, like war raging in every corner of the world, but here we are. Adeline, thank you very much for this talk. As I said at the beginning, I really appreciate your experience. You're one of the greatest journalists in our wider Balkan.
You're so nice.
Balkan
You are so nice.
Region.
You are so nice.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.